It often begins quietly without warning. You wake up one morning feeling the same as always. You make your breakfast, maybe pour a cup of coffee, toast a slice of bread, add something small on the side, maybe bacon, cheese, or that favorite processed food you've had for years. It feels harmless, comforting even. It's what you've always eaten, what your parents ate, what everyone eats. But somewhere beneath that familiar routine, something else is happening. Something your body can't tell you in words. Your heart begins to work just a little harder. The arteries constrict, the blood thickens, the rhythm adjusts, compensating for what your plate doesn't reveal. And though you don't feel it right away, your heart is whispering a message, one that most people over 50 never hear until it's too late. You see, the heart doesn't shout when it's in distress. It adapts. It finds ways to keep you alive, even when your daily choices make its job harder. Every heartbeat becomes a quiet act of endurance. Most people think of heart strain as something sudden, dramatic, chest pain, shortness of breath, a dizzy spell. But the truth is more subtle and far more dangerous. The foods that make your heart work harder don't always come with warnings or bold red labels. They're often disguised as normal, everyday, or even healthy. That's what makes them so deceptive. Imagine your heart as a lifelong companion, one that's been with you through every moment of joy, every heartbreak, every stress-filled day. It has adapted to every phase of your life. But now, as you move past 50, the rules have changed. The body isn't as forgiving as it once was. What once felt like a small indulgence, an innocent meal, now carries a weight your heart can no longer shrug off. It's not just about what you eat anymore. It's about how your body handles it. With age, blood vessels lose some of their elasticity. The heart's muscle fibers stiffen slightly. The metabolism slows, and that means certain foods, especially 3 specific ones, can force the heart into overdrive without you realizing it. Picture it like this. Every time you eat, your heart has to respond. It pumps faster to digest, circulates nutrients, balances electrolytes, and manages blood sugar. But when the food you consume is loaded with hidden salts, saturated fats, or inflammatory compounds, it triggers an invisible chain reaction. Blood pressure rises slightly. The arteries tighten to compensate. Over time, that temporary reaction becomes the new normal. The baseline shifts. What was once a smooth, effortless rhythm becomes a daily marathon for your heart. And because it happens gradually, most people never notice the shift until fatigue, dizziness, or high blood pressure appear. Think of the average American plate. Think of the quick breakfast, the sandwich at lunch, the dinner with sauces or processed meats. Each of these meals may seem ordinary, but combined over weeks and months they create a consistent burden. Your heart doesn't get a day off. It's always beating at about 100,000 times a day, and with each beat it's reacting to the chemistry you feed it. Now, after 50, the heart's efficiency isn't what it used to be. It needs less resistance, not more. It needs cooperation, not conflict. There's something deeply human about the comfort foods we love. They hold memories, family dinners, laughter, traditions. So when we hear that some of these foods could be making our heart's job harder, it feels almost personal. But the truth isn't meant to take away joy. It's meant to give it back, by helping you live longer, breathe easier, and feel energy return to your mornings. The foods that strain the heart aren't just unhealthy, they quietly drain vitality moment by moment. They make you tired not because of age, but because of effort. The silent, invisible effort your heart exerts to keep things running. Let's take a step back and visualize what's actually happening inside. Imagine your bloodstream as a network of highways, each carrying vital cargo, oxygen, nutrients, hormones, guided by your heartbeat. Now imagine that over time, the roads begin to narrow, not because of debris or an accident, but because the walls slowly thicken, coated by microscopic layers of fat and calcium. The heart must push harder to move blood through. The pressure builds, the vessels resist. That's what happens when the foods we eat cause inflammation, oxidation, and stiffness inside our arteries. And this isn't some distant medical concept. It's happening right now, quietly, in millions of people who feel fine. One of the most misunderstood truths about heart health is that symptoms often appear decades after the damage begins. The fatigue after a heavy meal, the occasional headache, the slower recovery after exercise. These are not random. They're small signals of an overworked system. The foods you eat today can determine whether your heart's workload tomorrow will be light and efficient or strained and labored. Many people over 50 find themselves trapped in a cycle. They feel tired, so they rely on quick energy foods, often processed, salty, or sugary. Those foods spike blood pressure or raise cholesterol, which in turn makes them more fatigued. It's a quiet loop that keeps repeating until a doctor visit reveals the truth. Your blood pressure's higher than last year, or your cholesterol's creeping up. But by then, the habits have settled in, and unless awareness comes first, change feels impossible. That's why awareness is everything. The purpose of this conversation isn't to scare you. It's to help you see what's happening before the numbers on a blood test tell the story for you. The foods that make your heart work harder are not always the ones you'd expect. Sometimes they're foods we've been told are fine, as long as we eat them in moderation. But moderation means something different when you're 50 than it did when you were 30. Your arteries are older. Your blood vessels respond differently. Sodium affects you faster. Fat lingers longer. Sugar triggers more oxidative stress. The same meal that once had little consequence now leaves a measurable mark. And yet, there's a powerful truth beneath all this. Your heart is remarkably resilient. Even after decades of wear, it can recover. It can strengthen. It can thrive, if you give it the right conditions. That's the beauty of awareness. Once you understand what's been quietly pushing your heart to work harder, you gain the power to change it, to lighten the load, to breathe easier. But to do that, we must first face the reality of these foods, not with fear but with understanding. Imagine this as turning on the light in a dark room. For years, many of us have been walking through that room, bumping into things we couldn't see, thinking that fatigue, swelling, or high blood pressure were just normal parts of aging. But they're not. They're signals. And the foods that amplify those signals often share something in common. They increase the heart's workload without providing any benefit in return. The question, then, is simple but vital. What are the foods that make your heart work harder? And why are they so common in everyday diets? To answer that, we have to follow the story back to how the modern diet was built. In the past, meals were simpler. Ingredients were natural, unprocessed, full of fiber and minerals that supported the heart. But over the decades, convenience took over. Salt became a preservative, sugar became an energy booster, and industrial oils replaced natural fats. Every step in that transformation made food cheaper and tastier, but also heavier on the heart. Today, even the foods labeled as heart-healthy or low-fat can contain additives that confuse your metabolism and stress your circulatory system. There's something else too, a hidden cultural habit. We celebrate food that's fast, easy, and comforting. But comfort, especially in modern times, often comes with a cost. The heart doesn't rest after a processed meal. It reacts, compensates, and struggles to maintain rhythm and flow. Scientists call this postprandial stress, the physiological strain that occurs after eating certain types of food. In young, healthy bodies, this effect is temporary, but after 50 it lingers. The recovery takes longer, and repeated daily, it creates a pattern of chronic, low-level cardiovascular strain. Now, imagine decades of that pattern, the silent pressure that builds, meal after meal, year after year. That's why so many people in their 50s and 60s find themselves developing hypertension, high cholesterol, or arrhythmias even if they've never had major health issues before. It's not just time, it's the accumulation of small daily choices that add up. But here's the most important part. It's never too late to reverse the trend. The heart is not fragile, it's adaptable. The same way certain foods can make it work harder, others can ease its burden. And once you know the difference, you can begin to shift the balance in your favor. Before we uncover those specifics, though, it's crucial to understand the full picture. Because awareness without context leads to confusion. Some people stop eating all fats or cut out entire food groups out of fear. But the goal isn't restriction, it's recalibration. It's learning which foods support circulation and which quietly sabotage it. As we move forward, we'll uncover exactly how 3 common foods, ones many people eat every single week, can silently increase the heart's workload. You might be surprised by what they are. You might even have one of them in your kitchen right now. But don't worry, and this isn't about guilt, it's about insight. Because once you know how these foods affect your body, you'll have the power to make small, deliberate choices that bring your heart relief. For now, remember this: the foods you eat are messages to your heart. Some say, relax, everything's fine. Others whisper, work harder, push faster, keep going. Over time, those whispers turn into patterns, and patterns become conditions. But awareness, true awareness, lets you rewrite that message. In the next part, we'll open that door fully. We'll see with clarity and empathy how these foods change your heart's rhythm, alter your blood pressure, and quietly drain its strength. You'll learn what happens inside your body and why it matters more than ever after 50. Because once you understand the risk, you can finally begin to restore balance and give your heart the peace it's been asking for all along. The danger lies not in the dramatic, but in the ordinary. The real threats to your heart don't come from rare indulgences or occasional celebrations. They come from repetition, from what you eat day after day believing it's fine, unaware of the microscopic changes it's causing within you. When you reach 50, your heart is not the same heart you had at 30. It's wiser, more experienced, but also more sensitive. It remembers decades of meals, stress, emotions, and late nights. And what it needs most now is cooperation, not opposition. Yet 3 specific foods among the most common on American tables work against it every single day. The first culprit is something nearly everyone consumes without thought: processed meats. Bacon, sausages, deli cuts, hot dogs, ham, the staples of convenience, the taste of nostalgia. They seem innocent enough in small portions. But what few people realize is that processed meats are chemically designed for shelf life, not heart life. Every slice is infused with sodium, nitrates, and preservatives that make your blood vessels constrict. That constriction is subtle, almost imperceptible at first. But inside your arteries, it's like tightening a hose. The heart must pump harder to push the same amount of blood through a narrower space. Over time, that extra pressure becomes your body's new normal. You begin to live in a quiet state of hypertension, the kind that doesn't make you feel ill, but silently damages your arteries. Science has confirmed what the body has been trying to tell us for years. Studies from the Harvard School of Public Health and the Mayo Clinic have shown that even moderate consumption of processed meats can increase the risk of heart disease by 40% or more. Not because of calories, but because of chemistry. The sodium content alone, often 5 or 6 times higher than fresh meat, increases blood volume, forcing your heart to handle a heavier load. The nitrates and nitrites added for color and preservation convert into compounds that damage the inner lining of blood vessels, a layer called the endothelium. Once that layer is inflamed, cholesterol particles can more easily attach, forming plaques. The arteries stiffen, the blood pressure rises, and the heart begins a long, exhausting struggle to maintain flow. You don't feel any of this happening. You just notice subtle changes. Maybe your rings feel tighter after a salty meal, or your heartbeat feels heavier after breakfast. That heaviness isn't anxiety. It's your heart working overtime. Every slice of processed meat you eat adds just a little more salt to your bloodstream, pulling water into your vessels, thickening your blood, and raising your pressure. For someone over 50, that small increase can be enough to push you from borderline to high risk. The second food is less obvious because it wears the disguise of health. Refined carbohydrates. White bread, white rice, pasta, pastries, foods that have been stripped of fiber and nutrients until only pure starch remains. They don't taste dangerous, but inside your body, they act like a sudden flood of sugar. When you eat refined carbs, your blood glucose spikes within minutes. In response, your pancreas releases insulin to help your cells absorb that sugar. But with age, the body's sensitivity to insulin decreases. The glucose lingers longer in your bloodstream, creating what scientists call glycation, a process where sugar molecules attach to proteins in your blood, damaging the vessel walls. When that happens, your arteries lose flexibility. They become more rigid, less responsive. The heart must pump harder to move blood through those stiffened pathways. Think of it like trying to inflate a balloon made of leather instead of rubber. It takes more pressure, more force. Over years, this extra effort weakens the heart muscle and accelerates the wear on valves and arteries. It's no coincidence that people with diets high in refined carbs often develop hypertension and metabolic syndrome by their 50s. The sugar surge also causes a rapid dip in energy afterward, leading to fatigue, cravings, and, ironically, another round of high-carb eating. The body becomes trapped in a cycle of stress and strain, and the heart never truly rests. It's easy to dismiss this as minor. After all, everyone eats bread, right? But here's the truth. After 50, your body's margin for error is smaller. The same white toast that felt harmless at 30 now has a measurable effect on your blood sugar and vascular tension. The damage isn't visible, but it's cumulative. Each spike, each constriction, each rise in pressure, it adds up day by day, until one morning you wake up and realize you've been out of breath more often lately, or your doctor mentions your numbers have inched up again. That's not random aging. That's the quiet fingerprint of refined carbohydrates on your cardiovascular system. And then there's the third food, perhaps the most deceptive of all, certain vegetable oils. They've been marketed for decades as heart-healthy, labeled with words like cholesterol-free and light. Oils like soybean, corn, and canola became the default in American kitchens. But what these labels don't mention is that most of these oils are highly processed, extracted with heat and chemicals that strip them of antioxidants and distort their molecular structure. They're loaded with omega-6 fatty acids, the kind that in excess promote inflammation throughout the body. Inflammation is the quiet storm behind heart disease. It's what turns a small cholesterol deposit into a dangerous plaque. When you consume too many omega-6s, especially without enough omega-3s to balance them, your body produces inflammatory compounds that irritate the arterial walls. The result? Stiffness, swelling, and over time, scarring. The arteries lose their smooth texture, the blood flow becomes turbulent, and the heart compensates by increasing its force. It's like driving uphill every day. The car can handle it for a while, but eventually the engine strains. What's more, when these oils are heated in frying, baking, or even sautéing, they release toxic compounds called aldehydes, which have been linked to oxidative stress and cellular damage. Those compounds don't just affect your heart. They reach your brain, your liver, your kidneys. And yet, they're in nearly every packaged snack, salad dressing, and restaurant meal, even the healthy ones. The irony is painful. The very oils promoted as alternatives to butter and lard have quietly become one of the leading drivers of modern cardiovascular strain. Picture what this combination does to your body over time. Processed meats tightening your arteries, refined carbs stiffening them, and inflammatory oils inflaming them. It's a perfect storm of constriction, rigidity, and irritation. The heart must fight through that storm every single day, and the more it fights, the thicker its walls become. It's called left ventricular hypertrophy, a condition where the heart muscle enlarges in response to chronic pressure. At first, it's a sign of adaptation, but eventually it becomes a sign of exhaustion. The heart grows strong but stiff, like an overworked hand that can no longer relax. This is why so many people over 50 find themselves in a state of constant fatigue, shortness of breath, or chest tightness, even when they've never smoked or been overweight. They assume it's just getting older. But it's not. It's the result of decades of subtle strain, of foods that seemed harmless, even healthy, gradually turning the body's most faithful organ into a weary worker. The tragedy is that most of these changes are preventable. You don't have to give up flavor or joy. You just have to understand where the danger hides. Processed meats aren't evil. They're just over-engineered for preservation. Refined carbs aren't poison. They're just incomplete, stripped of what makes them safe. Vegetable oils aren't villains. They're just unbalanced, used far beyond their natural limits. But awareness transforms everything. Because once you understand what's happening on the inside, your choices on the outside change naturally. Consider this. Each of these foods affects your heart in a different way, but the result is the same. It forces it to work harder. That's the essence of cardiovascular strain. It's not just about blocked arteries or cholesterol numbers. It's about effort, unnecessary, invisible effort. The kind that accumulates slowly, the kind your heart shouldn't have to bear. And as we continue this journey, we'll go deeper inside the body itself to see what that effort looks like. You'll see how every bite sets off a cascade of reactions, hormones rising, vessels tightening, cells struggling to adapt. You'll see why fatigue isn't just tiredness, why swelling isn't just water retention, and why shortness of breath isn't just age. They're signals, messages from the heart itself asking for relief, because beneath the science, beneath the numbers and studies, there's a truth that connects us all. Your heart doesn't just keep you alive, it feels everything you live through. And when it's overworked, it doesn't complain, it endures. But endurance has its limits, and if you've reached 50, it's time to stop testing them. It's time to understand what's truly happening inside. In the next part, we'll open the body's hidden world. We'll trace the path of these foods from your plate to your arteries, from your bloodstream to your heart's muscle. You'll see the transformation, the tightening, the thickening, the slow erosion of rhythm. And you'll understand with vivid clarity what it really means when we say your heart is working harder than it should. Because knowledge is the first step toward relief. And the heart, above all else, deserves that relief. Imagine your heart as you truly know it, not as a medical diagram or a distant organ, but as the constant rhythm that has kept you alive from your very first breath. It never rests, never complains, never asks for recognition. It simply beats, day after day, decade after decade, adapting to everything you've ever thrown at it. Stress, sleepless nights, salt-laden meals, sugary comfort foods, moments of fear and joy alike. But the foods we discussed earlier, the processed meats, the refined carbohydrates, and the industrial oils, turn this faithful companion into a worker struggling under quiet strain. To understand what that means, we need to step inside, to see what happens in the living machinery of your body when these foods make your heart work harder than it was ever meant to. The moment you eat something high in sodium, like a few slices of bacon or a deli sandwich, your blood chemistry shifts. Sodium acts like a sponge. It holds onto water inside your bloodstream. With every milligram of excess salt, the volume of your blood subtly increases. Think of it like overfilling a water balloon. The walls stretch, the pressure rises. Your arteries, already less elastic with age, can't expand as easily as they once did. So instead, your heart compensates. It pushes harder, contracting with greater force to move this thicker, heavier blood through narrower channels. You don't feel that process directly. You might just feel a little flushed or thirsty, but inside your heart is already under mechanical stress. The muscle fibers in your left ventricle, the chamber responsible for pumping oxygen-rich blood throughout your body, begin to thicken to handle the pressure. This sounds like strength, but it's not the kind of strength you want. It's like lifting weights every minute of your life without rest. Over time, that thickened heart muscle becomes stiff. It pumps less efficiently. The body compensates by raising your blood pressure even more, creating a cycle of effort and exhaustion that repeats silently for years. Now layer on the second factor, refined carbohydrates. Every time you eat white bread, pastries, or pasta made from refined flour, your blood sugar rises quickly. The body reacts with a flood of insulin, trying to escort the sugar out of the blood and into the cells. But the more this happens, the less responsive your cells become. The glucose lingers, colliding with proteins and fats in a process called glycation. Under a microscope, these sugar-coated molecules look like jagged crystals, sticky, abrasive, destructive. They damage the endothelial lining, the delicate inner surface of your blood vessels that keeps your arteries smooth and responsive. Once damaged, those vessels lose their ability to dilate properly. The smooth interior becomes rough, like sandpaper instead of silk. Small cholesterol particles, once flowing freely, begin to get caught in these tiny irregularities. The immune system notices and sends inflammatory cells to repair the damage, but this repair process isn't perfect. It's like patching a tire with layer after layer of rubber. Over time, the patch thickens, hardens, and protrudes. That's a plaque. That's the beginning of atherosclerosis, the slow, silent narrowing of your arteries. Now imagine your heart pushing blood through those roughened, narrowed pathways. Each contraction sends a surge of pressure into tubes that resist more than they should. The effort increases. The rhythm quickens. Your pulse rises slightly after meals, especially heavy ones, because your heart has to work harder to overcome that resistance. It's a battle waged in silence, beneath the surface of everyday life. And while all this is happening, the third culprit, inflammatory vegetable oils, adds its own layer of chaos. These oils, extracted under extreme heat, lose their natural stability. When heated again during cooking, they oxidize further, producing molecules that attack your cells like sparks landing on dry grass. These molecules, aldehydes, lipid peroxides, don't just cause inflammation, they change the behavior of your arteries. They signal your immune system to remain on constant alert, flooding your body with inflammatory cytokines that keep your blood vessels irritated and swollen. Inside your arteries, this inflammation weakens the very structure meant to protect you. Collagen, the protein that gives your vessel wall strength, begins to degrade faster than it can rebuild. The smooth muscles inside the arterial walls contract more frequently, tightening your vessels even further. The result is a constant state of low-grade tension, your heart pushing against a resistance that never relaxes. You might wonder, how does this feel? What are the signs that your heart is carrying this burden? They're easy to dismiss because they masquerade as ordinary aging. Fatigue after meals, a slight shortness of breath when climbing stairs, swollen ankles in the evening, a feeling that your heartbeat is stronger, more noticeable at night. These aren't coincidences. They're signals, whispers from your body that your heart is compensating, straining, adapting to a diet that doesn't support it anymore. Think about the arteries leading to your brain, your kidneys, your legs. Each one is affected by this same cycle of pressure, sugar, and inflammation. Over time, microtears form in the vessel walls. The body tries to heal them, creating small scars. Those scars stiffen the vessels further, forcing your heart to generate even more pressure to maintain circulation. Eventually, the arteries lose their natural rhythm. They stop responding to your body's signals as fluidly as before. When you need more oxygen during exercise or even when climbing stairs, your vessels can't dilate fast enough. The result is shortness of breath, fatigue, or dizziness. And as the years pass, these small inconveniences evolve into conditions: hypertension, arrhythmia, angina. There's also an emotional dimension to this process that medicine rarely discusses. When your heart is overworked, it doesn't just affect your body, it affects your mind. Reduced circulation means less oxygen reaches your brain. That translates into mental fog, forgetfulness, mood swings, even anxiety. Many people over 50 describe feeling more on edge, more tired, more disconnected from their usual vitality. But what they're feeling isn't just stress, it's physiology. The brain depends on steady, rhythmic blood flow, and when that rhythm is strained, clarity fades. And then there's the emotional toll of realizing that your own habits, choices you made without malice or neglect, have quietly shaped this reality. It's easy to feel guilt, to wonder how you could have known. But guilt has no place here. The food system has changed more in the past 50 years than it did in the previous 1,000. The very things we were told were healthy, low-fat spreads, vegetable oils, lean processed meats, were sold as solutions but designed for convenience and profit. You were never meant to navigate this without guidance, but now you know. And knowledge is power, even when it arrives late, because the body, especially the heart, is forgiving. The moment you change your inputs, your biology begins to shift. Within weeks of reducing sodium, blood pressure starts to normalize. Within days of cutting refined carbs, your blood sugar stabilizes. Within hours of replacing inflammatory oils with natural fats like olive oil or avocado oil, your vessels relax. Your heart feels it. It knows when the storm begins to calm. Still, the impact of decades can't be erased overnight. The heart must unlearn years of tension. Think of it like a tightly coiled spring. It takes time to unwind. But the process begins with a single decision: to stop feeding the strain and start nurturing recovery. Visualize it with me. You're sitting at a table. In front of you are two meals. One is the typical modern breakfast: white toast, bacon, margarine, a cup of coffee with sugar. The other is a meal built for your heart: whole grain oats with berries, a boiled egg, a drizzle of olive oil, green tea. Both will fill you. Both will satisfy hunger. But one will make your heart's job easier. The other will make it harder. The difference lies not in taste but in chemistry. One reduces inflammation, stabilizes blood sugar, and lowers sodium. The other spikes, constricts, and inflames. The question is never, what's wrong with me? It's, what am I asking my heart to endure today? You see, every heartbeat is a conversation between your choices and your biology. And when those choices lean toward processed, refined, and inflammatory foods, your heart has no choice but to raise its voice, through pressure, fatigue, or irregular rhythm, to get your attention. That's what hypertension really is, your body's way of saying, I can't keep doing this. But here's the deeper truth. The same pathways that lead to strain also lead to healing. When blood pressure rises due to sodium, removing the excess salt allows fluid balance to restore. When refined carbs cause vessel stiffness, replacing them with fiber-rich foods allows glucose to stabilize and the arteries to regain elasticity. When vegetable oils inflame the lining, introducing omega-3s and antioxidants helps quiet that inflammation. The same system that adapts to harm can adapt to healing. The same heart that overworks can relearn ease. The impact of these three foods is profound because they target your heart from every angle: mechanical, chemical, and inflammatory. They raise your blood pressure, destabilize your metabolism, and irritate your vessels. But awareness of this isn't meant to frighten you, it's meant to awaken you. Because once you can see the invisible battle your heart has been fighting, you can finally choose to give it peace. In the next part, we'll move from understanding to action. You'll discover the foods and habits that undo the damage, the simple, realistic steps that lower your heart's workload, restore its rhythm, and help it regain its strength. This isn't about restriction or punishment. It's about relief. The deep, biological sigh of a heart that finally gets to rest, beat by steady beat, in harmony with you again. There comes a moment when awareness turns into resolve, when the quiet realization that something must change begins to feel less like fear and more like empowerment. That's where healing begins, not in punishment or guilt, but in calm, deliberate care. You've spent years doing what everyone else does, eating what's easy, convenient, or comforting. But now, after 50, your body speaks a different language, one that asks for balance, restoration, and gentleness. And the beautiful truth is this: your heart listens when you listen to it. It doesn't take radical measures or deprivation to bring relief. What it takes is respect, a willingness to give this organ, this tireless partner, what it's quietly needed all along. The first act of relief begins with salt, or rather, with understanding it. Sodium is essential for life. It helps your nerves communicate, your muscles contract, your blood maintain balance. But too much sodium turns your bloodstream into a pressurized system. The problem isn't salt itself. It's the hidden salt in processed foods, restaurant meals, sauces, canned goods, and snacks that taste only mildly salty, but deliver enormous amounts to your system. Your goal is not to eliminate sodium, but to reclaim control over it. When you prepare food at home using herbs, citrus, or natural seasonings instead of salt-heavy sauces, your blood pressure begins to ease within days. Studies have shown that reducing sodium intake by just 1,200 milligrams a day can lower blood pressure significantly, enough to reduce heart disease risk by up to 20%. That relief is tangible. Within a week, your body begins to release the excess fluid it's been holding onto. Swelling around the ankles fades. You feel lighter. Your heartbeat feels smoother. You sleep better because your blood volume, the literal weight your heart pushes against, has lessened. It's not magic, it's physics. You've removed a load, and the system immediately responds. Every beat becomes just a little easier. But the real shift happens when you move beyond what to avoid and begin embracing what to add. Because the foods that heal are not rare or exotic. They're familiar, simple, and profoundly effective. Start with potassium-rich foods: avocados, bananas, leafy greens, beans. Potassium acts as sodium's natural counterpart, helping your body flush out excess salt and relax blood vessel walls. Each serving brings balance back to your circulation. The heart thrives on that balance. It feels the difference almost instantly. Then turn your attention to the second major change, replacing refined carbohydrates with whole living grains. Think of oats, quinoa, brown rice, barley, or rye. These foods digest slowly, releasing glucose in a steady rhythm instead of a surge. Your insulin stays calm, your blood vessels stay relaxed, and the endothelium, that delicate lining inside your arteries, begins to heal. Within weeks, your triglyceride levels drop, your blood becomes less viscous, your energy stabilizes, you feel more awake after meals instead of sluggish. The fog that once followed lunch lifts, replaced by a sense of clarity that comes from balanced blood sugar and steady circulation. And then there's fiber, the quiet hero of heart health. Every bite of fiber acts like a broom inside your arteries, sweeping away excess cholesterol before it can cling to your vessel walls. Soluble fiber from oats, apples, lentils, and flaxseed binds to cholesterol particles in your digestive system and removes them from your body. It's one of nature's simplest but most powerful forms of detoxification. Within 3 months of increasing your fiber intake, measurable improvements appear in your blood work: lower LDL cholesterol, improved blood pressure, reduced inflammation. Each of these effects lightens your heart's workload, giving it the gift of ease it has long deserved. Next, focus on the oils that soothe rather than inflame. Replace the industrial oils, canola, soybean, corn, with those that retain their natural integrity: extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, and small amounts of cold-pressed flaxseed or walnut oil. These oils are rich in monounsaturated and omega-3 fatty acids, which counteract inflammation, improve blood vessel flexibility, and support healthy cholesterol levels. Think of them as lubricants for your circulatory system, keeping the flow smooth, preventing friction, and calming the microscopic fires that lead to stiffness. Within just a few weeks, blood markers of inflammation begin to fall. The arteries become more responsive. The heart, for the first time in years, experiences a lighter rhythm. And here's something remarkable. These changes don't just repair your heart, they reawaken your senses. As you move away from processed foods, your palate begins to reset. You start to taste the natural sweetness of a tomato, the subtle bitterness of greens, the richness of nuts, the satisfying depth of olive oil. Food begins to nourish rather than numb. Meals become an act of care instead of routine. That emotional connection, the sense that you're feeding life, not habit, reinforces every biological improvement you're making. There's also immense relief in movement, not the kind of exercise that feels punishing or extreme, but movement that synchronizes with your heart's rhythm. A 30-minute walk each day, particularly after meals, lowers blood sugar, reduces triglycerides, and increases circulation to the arteries in your legs and heart. It's like flushing your system with oxygen. The heart beats in a pattern it loves: steady, purposeful, rhythmic. Walking after meals has been shown to lower post-meal blood sugar spikes by up to 30%, a small miracle with massive long-term benefits. You don't need to run marathons. You just need to move with intention every day, giving your heart what it craves most: motion. As your habits shift, so does your body's chemistry. Within a month, your blood pressure can drop by 5 to 10 points. Within 2 months, your resting heart rate may slow, your sleep may deepen, and your morning energy may rise. And beneath those visible changes, something more profound is happening. Your heart is rewiring itself. When the strain eases, the nervous system relaxes. The stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, that once kept your heart racing begin to quiet down. In that silence, healing takes root. But relief is not just physical, it's emotional. For years, your heart has carried not only your blood, but also your stress, your grief, your worry. Each rapid beat during an argument, each skipped rhythm during a moment of fear leaves its echo. When you begin to nourish yourself differently, when meals become peaceful, when your body feels lighter, your heart responds emotionally too. You feel calmer, not because life has changed, but because the chemistry of calm has returned to your bloodstream. The body and mind begin to speak the same language again. And then there's the deeper act of healing: forgiveness. You forgive yourself for the years you didn't know better. You forgive the convenience-driven world that made it so easy to forget what real food tastes like. You forgive the body for the signs you once ignored, because now awareness has replaced ignorance. Compassion has replaced guilt. And that shift and that quiet inner forgiveness lowers your blood pressure as much as any diet ever could. It's important to know that your heart doesn't just respond to nutrients, it responds to emotions, breathing, and thought. Chronic stress raises blood pressure and inflammation just as much as sodium and sugar. But calm, practiced calm, has the opposite effect. Deep diaphragmatic breathing, slow and deliberate, activates your parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest mode that lowers heart rate and relaxes vessels. Just 5 minutes of slow breathing twice a day can bring measurable relief to your heart. It's not just meditation, it's medicine. So now, imagine the new rhythm of your life. Your breakfast, oatmeal with berries sprinkled with cinnamon. Your lunch, leafy greens, chickpeas, olive oil, lemon. Your dinner, grilled salmon, sweet potatoes, a handful of walnuts. Each meal sends your heart a message. You can rest now. The arteries relax, the flow smooths, the pressure subsides. This is what true vitality feels like. Not the artificial energy of caffeine or sugar, but the steady, unshakable strength of balance. And as this new pattern continues, you'll begin to notice small miracles. The cold hands that used to linger warm up faster. The afternoon fatigue that used to drag disappears. Your sleep deepens. Your thoughts sharpen. You wake up, not with heaviness, but with readiness. These are the sensations of a heart working with you, not against you. A body in quiet harmony. This is relief in its truest form. Not the absence of disease, but the presence of ease. It's the moment you realize that aging doesn't have to mean decline. That vitality doesn't belong only to the young. It belongs to anyone who chooses awareness over autopilot. And as we move toward the final chapter, we'll go even deeper into empowerment. You'll see that this is not a temporary fix or a short-lived motivation. It's a lifelong partnership with your heart, one built on trust, compassion, and strength. Because the heart you save isn't just the one in your chest, it's the center of your life, and now it's finally learning to beat freely again. There is a quiet moment that arrives after healing begins, when the fear has faded, the confusion has cleared, and what remains is a deep, calm understanding of your body. That moment is empowerment. It's when you no longer act out of anxiety, but out of wisdom. When you no longer eat just to survive, but to support the rhythm that has carried you for a lifetime. Because the truth, now that you've seen the full picture, is this: your heart is not fragile. It is resilient, intelligent, and profoundly responsive to care. And from this day forward, you are not a passive participant in your health story. You are its author. The foods that once made your heart work harder no longer hold that same quiet control over you. You understand their effect. How processed meats constrict, how refined carbs thicken, how inflammatory oils ignite. You see the pattern clearly now, and because you see it, you can change it. Awareness breaks the cycle of automatic habits. You no longer eat blindly, you eat consciously. That shift, invisible to others but powerful within, is what separates decline from renewal. Think of your heart again, not as a symbol, but as the most loyal ally you have ever had. It has endured without rest, adapted without complaint. Even now, after years of effort, it's ready to reward your care with more energy, more clarity, more life. Every meal you choose from this point forward becomes a form of gratitude, a way of saying, "I'm listening." That mindset is where longevity begins. Empowerment isn't about restriction. It's about freedom. Freedom from confusion, from dependency, from the cycle of fatigue and worry. It's about knowing that you can walk into a grocery store and see not temptation, but information. You know which choices lighten your heart's load, which ones darken it. That knowledge gives you peace of mind. You no longer fear food, you use it. You no longer wait for symptoms, you prevent them. You are no longer a bystander in your health, you are in command of it. This sense of control extends beyond the plate. It touches everything: how you move, how you breathe, how you rest. When you walk, you do so with purpose, knowing that each step massages your arteries, strengthens your heart muscle, and stimulates your lymphatic flow. When you breathe deeply, you know you're feeding your cells oxygen and telling your nervous system you're safe. When you sleep, you understand it's not laziness, it's repair. You've learned that health isn't a battle to win, but a balance to maintain. And balance feels effortless when you no longer fight your own body. That's what most people miss. They think health after 50 means giving things up. But the truth is the opposite. It means gaining back what was lost: energy, mobility, confidence, clarity. The weight you lift is not in pounds but in pressure, as your heart's workload decreases. The fatigue that once followed you like a shadow begins to fade. The anxiety that came with every doctor's visit is replaced by assurance, because you've built a partnership with your body based on respect, not reaction. The heart, once strained, now finds its natural rhythm again. Its beat becomes lighter, more efficient. The blood flows with ease through vessels that are gradually regaining their elasticity. The arteries, no longer bombarded with inflammation, begin to soften, open, and restore the fluidity of youth. Even your skin begins to reflect the change, brighter, warmer, more alive, because circulation is life. Every improvement you make radiates outward. But empowerment also carries a responsibility, not the burden of perfection, but the grace of consistency. You don't need to be flawless, you only need to be faithful to yourself. If you slip, if you have that slice of bacon or that piece of cake, it doesn't undo the journey. Your body doesn't expect perfection. It expects balance. The occasional indulgence is not the problem. It's the pattern that matters. And now that you understand the pattern, you'll never fall back into blindness. You'll sense when your heart is working harder again. You'll feel it, a faster pulse, a heaviness after a salty meal, a restlessness after sugar. That awareness is your compass. You'll adjust naturally, with care, not guilt. With time, something profound begins to happen. Trust. You start trusting your own instincts again. The same way your heart trusted you to care for it, you begin to trust yourself to make the right choices without fear. You start hearing the quiet signals of your body: thirst, hunger, fatigue, calm, and responding with kindness. That communication, so simple yet so powerful, is the foundation of lifelong vitality. Empowerment also means seeing aging differently. It's not a decline, it's a refinement. Your body has accumulated experience. It has learned what helps it thrive and what slows it down. Aging gives you the wisdom to align with those lessons. And when you live that way, in alignment, your heart, your arteries, your mind, and your energy fall back into rhythm. The fear of heart disease becomes replaced by respect for your body's design. You stop chasing youth and start cultivating vitality. Because youth fades, but vitality deepens. There's something beautiful about that realization. You understand now that every healthy heartbeat is not just biology. It's a moment of grace. Each beat is proof of resilience. Every time your heart contracts, it's not only sending blood, but sending a message. We're still here. We're still strong. You begin to live with a quieter kind of confidence, the kind that comes from knowing you're not fighting time. You're flowing with it. This is the phase of life where wisdom finally meets health. You've seen what ignorance can do, how it strains, how it depletes. And now you've felt what knowledge can restore, how it steadies, how it empowers. That's the transformation most people never experience, because they never pause long enough to listen to their own body's story. But you have. You've learned to interpret its language, the tightening, the swelling, the fatigue, not as punishment but as communication. And now, you respond differently. You wake with gratitude. You eat with intention. You move with purpose. You rest with peace. You no longer need trends or fads to guide you. You are guided by understanding. Imagine this next chapter of your life, not as a slow descent into fragility, but as an ascent into strength. You walk more, breathe deeper, laugh often. You cook meals that nourish not just the body but the soul. You eat in calm environments, savoring flavors, noticing textures, honoring the experience. You no longer rush through life or through meals, because you've learned that rhythm, whether in music, in movement, or in heartbeat, is sacred. Your doctor notices the changes. The numbers improve, cholesterol down, blood pressure normalized, weight stabilizing. But the real transformation isn't on paper. It's in how you feel. The lightness, the mental clarity, the ease of breath, the renewed capacity for joy. You're not just living longer. You're living better. That's the power of empowerment. It changes the texture of every day. And perhaps the most profound part of all, your story becomes an example for others. Your children, your friends, your spouse, they see the change and they feel it. Your calm energy influences theirs. Your habits inspire quiet reflection in the people around you. The ripple effect begins. You become proof that transformation is possible at any age, that health isn't lost with time, it's reclaimed through awareness. That's the legacy of a life lived with understanding. You're no longer running from disease, you're walking toward vitality. You no longer wait for the body to break before acting. You act because you finally love what's been keeping you alive all along. Your heart, the same one that once struggled in silence, now beats with freedom. And as it does, you realize something simple but profound. It was never about avoiding death. It was about learning how to live, fully, gently, wisely. Your heart doesn't just want to survive, it wants to thrive. It wants to dance, to laugh, to love deeply without fear. And now, after everything you've learned, you can finally give it that gift. So as you move forward, carry this truth with you. Every beat is a choice. Every meal is a message. Every breath is a chance to begin again. And your heart, patient, forgiving, and strong, will always answer. Because it was never your enemy. It was always your guide, leading you back to balance, to peace, and to life itself.